Hi there, back again. Last time we learned about how sedimentary rock is formed. Today we're going to learn about something that is found in sedimentary rock and only in sedimentary rock. There are other kinds of rock, but this kind of thing is only found in sedimentary rock. I'm going to show you. And I'm going to tell you that right here, this is the sedimentary rock that has been carved away a little bit to expose these. Did you guess that these are fossils? These are actually fossils of shark teeth. And what we're going to do today is we're going to do some noticing. What do you notice about these shark tooth fossils? I notice that these shark tooth fossils are not the color of teeth. Sharks actually have the same color teeth we do, and it's not this color. I also notice that these are really, really hard. I can use something metal and try to scratch against it, and they won't get scratched. But teeth, if you scratch with something metal, they get scratched. So this is much, much harder than the shark's tooth is. And as a result of that, I know that this is not tooth material. This is actually rock itself. So the fossil is not actually a shark tooth. When I see a fossil of a shark tooth, I'm not seeing the actual shark tooth. I'm seeing rock that is in the shape of a shark tooth. And that's an important thing to remember. What does that make you wonder? It makes me wonder, how did we get rock that's in the shape of a shark tooth underneath the ground? We see we had to chisel away here. So we had to get all this rock away, this sedimentary rock, in order to find the shark's tooth fossil. It's like, how did we get rock in this shape, which is a different color from this rock? And how did we get it in the shape of the shark's tooth, but it's rock? That's really weird. I'm going to show you another fossil, which might also bring up some of the same ideas. This one is of an animal that does not exist anymore, because we know that fossils are from a long time ago. We all think of like dinosaur fossils. We can find fossils of things that aren't alive anymore. Trilobites are no longer alive, but they used to be very common. They were one of the most common organisms on the entire planet. And so here's our fossil of the trilobite. Again, we see the sedimentary rock. Sedimentary rock is very soft. The people who are experts at this were able to chisel away at this sedimentary rock to find this trilobite. And again, I notice trilobites are actually very similar to like lobsters. They have shells that are hard but aren't very hard. You can like crack them because you can crack a lobster or a crab. But this is not like that. This is actual rock. So this is rock that is in the shape of a trilobite. And it's definitely different rock than the sedimentary rock because you can tell it's a different color. So again, we have somehow there got to be a rock underneath the ground that is in the shape of the trilobite. The next ones I'm going to show you have a little bit of a hint as to what might be going on. This one is a fossil of a fish. But what I notice about this fossil is that it's not actually exactly the shape of a fish. It's more like the fish was pressed into this sedimentary rock and it left an impression. Like the way if you press your hand, you probably did this as a kid, you press your hand into some clay and you can see the shape of the handprint. That's what this is like. It's like someone pressed that in there and then there was a shape of a handprint. This ends up being kind of like a mold. If you can imagine, you could take Play-Doh and stick it in here, and if you pulled the Play-Doh out, you would get something that would be the shape of a fish. So this is a hint as to how we might have gotten things that were the shape, rock that was the shape of a shark's tooth or rock that is the shape of a trilobite, because it has to do with whether you can, like, this mold might be useful because you can press something into it and it will be the shape of the fish. So the question then is, how did we get the mold? And that's what we're going to try to figure out in our lesson today, is how did we get that mold shape of the fish? And how do we get then the rock into that mold to be shaped like the trilobite or the shark tooth? And we're going to look at a video. I'm going to move myself over here. We're going to look at a reading, about how fossils form. When an animal dies, its body breaks down. The bones take the longest time to break down, so they hang around after the rest of the body is gone. And I see over here in my picture, I see a bone hanging around. It's on top of some layers, so I'm taking a guess that this is sedimentary rock that it's on top of. But the white part, that is the actual bone from the animal, because that's what it's talking about in the text here. If it hangs around long enough, sediment falls on top of the bone. Sometimes several layers of sediment fall on top of the bone. So I'm looking here. Now in this picture, I see my bone still, but it looks different than the first picture because now there are also layers on top, and I bet they're going to turn into sedimentary rock too. Over time, the sediments experience pressure from above, which causes them to turn into rock. Oh, I was right. It turned into rock. Then the bones break down. Now there is just empty space in the shape of the bone with sedimentary rock surrounding it. Well, I noticed that now in this picture, that bone shape is dark black. And I noticed that it says now there is empty space in the shape of the bone. So I think the reason they changed the color here is because now it's empty space. And I read here that it's because the bone breaks down. Bone came from a living thing. It breaks down just like everything else of living things breaks down. So now the bone broke down. There's sedimentary rock all around it. So now that the bone broke down, there is space left where that bone used to be. The empty space is kind of like a mold. Oh, just like I was talking about that fish mold. Over time, minerals trickle into that empty space and fill it. The minerals turn into stone. So I think that this red part must be the minerals that went into that empty space. That's why the author decided to make this picture a different color now, because now that empty space is filled with minerals that are turning into stone. That's how we got the trilobite in the shape of a trilobite, but with a stone. If we had a mold for the trilobite, some minerals came in and it turned into stone in the shape of a trilobite or in the shape of the shark tooth. Now we have stone in the shape of the bone that was once there. We call it a fossil of a bone. Wow. So first there was the bone there, then rock formed around, sedimentary rock formed around it. Then the bone broke down, and so we had an empty space. And then the minerals filled it and made a different kind of rock than the sedimentary rock, because the minerals are, we saw it's like a different color, the shark tooth and the trilobite. And we see on here that the author made this a different color than the sedimentary rock around it. So it's a different kind of bone. Right now, you're going to go back to your tab and you're going to answer questions about this video. It's going to ask you what I showed at the beginning of the video. And you know that I showed fossils. You don't need to name the types, just fossils.